You're sitting there right now, thinking about your group. Family, buddies from work, people from the range, the neighbors you kinda trust. You picture all of you watching the world burn together, clinking cans of beans like champagne. Then one day you wake up and realize the thing that kills you wasn't the collapse. It was the person you let inside your walls. But let me ask you something brutal. If everything went sideways this week, which one of those friends do you actually bet your life on? And which one is just waiting for the right level of panic, hunger, or opportunity to flip on you like a bad switch? You think you know the answer. You probably don't. When groups fail in real disasters, it's almost never for lack of bullets or beans. It's because somebody inside was lying, manipulating, or just quietly rotting the structure from within while everyone else was busy guarding the front door. You think the threat is outside the fence. A lot of the time, it's passing you the salt at dinner. Here's what I know with absolute certainty. After a collapse, trust becomes a currency more valuable than ammo. And just like currency, it can be counterfeited so well that you don't realize you've been scammed until everything is gone. Today, I'm going to show you how to spot the counterfeits before they bankrupt your chances of staying alive. Forget Hollywood traders with evil monologues and dramatic music. Real threats don't come in wearing skull masks and spiked shoulder pads. They show up with a smile, a sad story, and offers to help with dishes. Real infiltrators, manipulators, and time bombs look like good people right up until they don't. You can keep believing the movie version, or you can learn to read the glitches in the Matrix. Before we go full paranoid squirrel, listen. The goal here isn't to make you hate everyone. The goal is to give you a set of tools so you can build groups that actually survive instead of reality TV alliances that implode in week 1. While 99% of people are winging it with vibes and wishful thinking, I want you in the 1% who vet, test, and structure trust like a critical system. If you want to be part of that 1% instead of background casualties in somebody else's story, hit subscribe and stick around. The unprepared masses will call this paranoia. They always do. Then they wonder why their friends loot them first. You and I are going to do this differently. Let's start with an ugly reality. Not every threat is malicious. Some are just weak, broken, or desperate in ways that make them just as dangerous as a paid infiltrator. A manipulator with a plan can hurt you. A coward with access can end you. You need to learn to see both. First archetype, the charming parasite. This is the person who slides into your group and immediately becomes everybody's favorite. They're helpful, funny, maybe even selfless. They also somehow manage to do 30% of the work while consuming 70% of the resources and emotional energy. Let me paint you a picture. It's week 3 of Grid Down. Everyone's tired, stressed, running on canned chili and instant coffee. Charming Parasite is right there with a joke, a story, a hug, and 1,000 reasons why they totally meant to pull guard duty last night. But something came up. They're always almost reliable, almost accountable, almost pulling their weight. Red flags? They volunteer loudly for visible tasks, but mysteriously vanish for the boring, thankless jobs. They're always in the room when decisions happen, but rarely when work is assigned. When called out, they pivot to guilt, tears, or victim mode faster than you can say emotional blackmail. Their real skill isn't survival, it's social engineering. Here's how you handle them. You move from trusting words to trusting patterns. Give them clear, measurable responsibilities with deadlines, and track performance like it's logistics. Not help with camp, but fill these 4 water containers by 1600, log it on the board. They miss a task? That's data. They miss 3? That's a threat. Second archetype, the silent vault. These are the people who never talk about their past, their skills, or their beliefs, even after everyone else has opened up. Mystery is cool in movies. In a survival group, unexplained gaps are attack surfaces. Sometimes they're just traumatized. Sometimes they're hiding debts, crimes, affiliations, or current loyalties that do not include you. Imagine you're sitting around a lantern, sharing worse jobs, past mistakes, old injuries. Silent Vault smiles, laughs at the right moments, but gives you nothing specific. Their stories are vague, location optional, timeline free. I moved around a lot. I did some contracting. My last group, it's complicated. Complicated how, exactly? In disaster land, complicated often translates to I burned bridges or I was the problem. The vetting move here is controlled curiosity. You don't interrogate like a cop, you explore like a builder. Ask about specific past scenarios, times they've been hungry, broke, stuck in storms, injured, criticized. Normal people have messy, detailed stories. Liars lean on generic phrases and emotional fog. You're not hunting for perfection, you're hunting for believable scars. Third archetype, the crisis commander. When things get scary, this is the one who suddenly steps up, starts barking orders, and looks like the natural leader. In truth, some of these people are a gift. Others are an absolute catastrophe in boots. A bad leader with confidence is more dangerous than no leader at all. The dark version of crisis commander thrives on chaos because it gives them power. They're impatient with consensus, allergic to accountability, and obsessed with control. They talk about decisiveness, but never about responsibility. They love directing other people's risk while preserving their own safety and comfort. That's not leadership. That's playing general with other people's hit points. Your test for them is simple. You separate authority from accountability and see if they stick around. Put them in charge of something measurable, food allocation, guard rotations, fuel usage, and make it explicit that results will be reviewed by others. A real leader accepts oversight and adjusts to feedback. A fake one either bails, blames, or starts quietly undermining anyone who questions them. Fourth archetype, the splitter. They never attack the group head-on, they dissolve it from the inside. They're the ones who always have a concern, a private whisper, a little comment about someone not pulling their weight or not really being committed. They weaponize small frustrations into fault lines until the whole group fractures. Let me paint this one. You've got a solid group, decent stores, functional routines, then Splitter starts doing their thing. To you, they say, hey, I'm worried about how much ammo Jake's using in training. To Jake, they say, I think the leader doesn't really trust you with serious responsibilities. They present themselves as the only one telling you the truth, while feeding everybody curated, weaponized gossip. Red flags? They're always in the middle of drama, but somehow never at fault. Every conflict has their fingerprints on it, but they never own their part. They prefer side conversations to group discussions. They frame their poison as just being honest or looking out for you. Meanwhile, they're building little loyalty islands that make them the center of each mini-universe. Mitigating splitters is a structural move. You normalize group debriefs, open conversations, and direct feedback. You reward people who bring issues to the full team instead of whisper networks. And when you see someone consistently triangulating, telling A one thing and B another, you call it out calmly, specifically, and early. Silence is fertilizer for manipulators. Fifth archetype, the collector. This is your spy profile, whether they're working for someone else or just hoarding information as personal power. They ask detailed questions, remember everything, and share almost nothing of equivalent value. They know who's got medical supplies, who's got extra ammo, who's fighting with their spouse, because they've been quietly harvesting all of it. The collector is dangerous because data is leverage. In a collapse, knowing who's weak, who's angry, who's injured, or who's storing what where is better than any weapon. They can sell your group out to another, manipulate decisions, or time their own betrayal for maximum gain. While you're counting calories, they're counting pressure points. The counter? You implement two things: need to know and mirrored exchange. Need to know means you stop oversharing by default. Not everyone knows everything, especially at first. Mirrored exchange means if someone wants detail from you, they pay with equal detail from their side. If they dodge, deflect, or only take and never give, you tag that as a threat vector and restrict what they hear. Now, here's the important disclaimer. Some people are just socially awkward, trauma-damaged, or introverted, not spies or villains. Paranoia is easy. Disciplined suspicion is work. You're not looking to convict everyone in your head. You're building a pattern recognition system. 1 red flag? Note it. 3 consistent red flags? That's a problem, not a coincidence. So how do you start vetting people before the world goes sideways? Because if your plan is, I'll figure it out when it happens, congratulations. You think like the 99% who become cautionary tales. Vetting starts now, when nobody's shooting at you and there's still cell reception. This is the time to run social stress tests while the stakes are low. You begin with mundane pressure, money, time, and responsibility. How do they handle being paid back late? How do they react when someone flakes on them? Will they show up early to help move furniture, or do they always have an excuse? Future survival behavior is just current character under worse conditions. You don't need a war to spot patterns of reliability. Then you escalate to controlled conflict. Not drama for drama's sake, but honest disagreement. Can you tell them no without them melting down, sulking, or going passive-aggressive? Can they apologize sincerely when they screw up, or do they always shift blame? In a crisis, people who can't handle no become dangerous very fast. One of my favorite vetting questions is simple. Tell me about the last time you messed up badly and what you did about it. Watch their face. Listen to the story. If every mistake was someone else's fault, if every boss was a tyrant, every ex was crazy, every friend was disloyal, you're not hearing their history. You're hearing tomorrow's excuse for why betraying you was necessary. Now let's talk about operational security, because vetting isn't just about who you let in, it's about what you let them access. You don't hand the keys to your entire logistics network to someone who's barely passed the vibe check. Systems need compartments, just like a ship needs watertight bulkheads. One leak shouldn't sink the whole thing. You implement layers. New people start with low-risk tasks: cooking, cleaning common spaces, simple exterior chores, supervised patrols. Access to armory, food stores, medical lockers, comms, and intel gets increased only after time, observation, and consistent performance. Trust isn't a door you fling open, it's an airlock with multiple sealed checkpoints. Here's where most nice people break the system. They feel guilty for not trusting fast enough. They worry it makes them mean or paranoid. Out here, guilt is a luxury emotion that gets you dead. You can treat people kindly while still protecting your group with hard boundaries. Compassion doesn't mean access. Now let's test behavior under 3 critical stresses: scarcity, boredom, and accountability. Scarcity shows you who becomes selfish and who stays cooperative. Boredom shows you who can handle routine without inventing chaos. Accountability shows you who can take correction without mutiny. Run small drills now. Limited food days, rotating crap tasks, skill logs, and watch who cracks. Take scarcity. Run a lean week where you deliberately cut comfort items and extras just to test morale. See who hoards, who complains, who starts hinting about finding an easier group, and who steps up to boost morale. Don't announce it as a test. Real crises won't send a memo either. You're not torturing people. You're observing resilience and mindset. Boredom is next. Long-term survival is 10% action and 90% repetition. Guard, chores, maintenance, drills, repeat. People who can't tolerate boredom tend to manufacture excitement, picking fights, starting rumors, gambling with group assets, sneaking out just for fun. Watch what they do when nothing is happening. That's who they really are. Accountability might be the most important. When someone messes up, breaks equipment, misses a shift, forgets a procedure, how do they respond when it's addressed? Real assets say, "Yeah, I screwed that up. Here's how I'll fix it." Threats say, "It wasn't that bad. You're overreacting." Or, "What about when so-and-so messed up?" That defensiveness is a time bomb. Now we zoom out to structure. Individuals matter, but structure decides whether one bad actor can destroy everything or just bruise it. Compartmentalized security means nobody, including you, is allowed to be a single point of catastrophic failure. If one person flips, your group should take a hit, not a kill shot. You apply the 2-person rule for critical assets: armory access, comms codes, fuel storage, high-level decisions. No single person should be able to drain the fuel, empty the ammo, or change the radio plan without another set of eyes. This isn't about mistrusting good people. It's about respecting how ugly people can become under enough pressure. You also standardize documentation. Guard rotations, supply use, incident logs, training attendance. If it matters, you write it down where multiple people can see it. Manipulators thrive in foggy memory, and "I thought someone else had it." Clear logs make it obvious who's consistently missing, dodging, or altering reality. A liar can argue with you. They can't argue with their own pattern on paper. Another structural safeguard is cross-training. If only one person knows how to run the generator, do medical, or operate radios, that person owns you whether they mean to or not. skills need redundancy. Every critical task should have at least 2 trained people and 1 trainee. It's not just about resilience. It's about preventing one indispensable person from turning into a tyrant. Now let's talk about deliberate red teaming. Every decent security system gets tested, not just admired. You schedule drills where one trusted member plays infiltrator for a week, tries to gather sensitive info, bypass procedures, hoard supplies, or create drama. And then you debrief as a group on what worked and what failed. Make it a culture. We expect attacks, even from inside. That way you're not shocked when real ones come. These games reveal a lot. Who gave up information too easily? Who noticed something off but stayed quiet? Who instinctively validated gossip instead of shutting it down? You're building habits. Challenge, verify, and report instead of trust, assume, and ignore. It feels weird at first, then it starts feeling like competence. Now for the part most people skip, how to actually remove someone from your group without turning it into a civil war. Because once you identify a real threat, you have 3 choices: ignore it, confront it badly, or handle it like a professional. Option 1 is suicide. Option 2 gets people hurt. So let's focus on option 3. First, you collect data, not vibes. You write down incidents, dates, witnesses, and impacts. This isn't a courtroom, but it keeps you from acting purely on emotion or falling for a high drama performance in the moment. When you approach them, you're not throwing feelings. You're presenting a pattern: missed shifts, broken agreements, manipulative behavior, or security violations. Second, you scale your response. Not every issue is banishment level. Some problems get warnings and specific remediation steps: extra supervision, loss of certain privileges, probation on critical roles. But with infiltrators, persistent manipulators, or severely unstable people, you need a clean, fast separation, limited notice, clear terms, and no second chances on core trust breaches. Your group's survival is not a debate. Third, you manage the narrative. You don't smear them, but you also don't leave a vacuum. You explain to the group, simply and calmly, why the decision was made and how it protects everyone. Manipulators love spinning stories after they're removed. Don't gift wrap them confusion to weaponize. Clarity is kindness to the people staying. Now, a warning from the other side. Witch hunts will kill your group just as effectively as infiltrators. If every disagreement becomes evidence and every flaw looks like treason, you will eat yourselves alive. Humans under stress are paranoid by default. You don't need to fuel that bonfire. You need to channel it into structured, evidence-based suspicion. That means differentiating between trauma and malice. The person who shuts down after loud noises might not be hiding something. They might be a combat vet with untreated PTSD. The one who's clingy or overhelpful might be terrified of abandonment, not a scheming parasite. You address behavior and impact, not armchair diagnose their soul. Mature groups make room for damage without tolerating danger. There's another uncomfortable truth. Your own blind spots are the biggest security gap you've got. If you crave admiration, you're vulnerable to flattery. If you hate conflict, you're vulnerable to manipulators who weaponize your discomfort. If you have a savior complex, you're vulnerable to professional victims who turn you into their permanent rescue squad. Self-knowledge is OPSEC. You need to sit down and ask yourself, what kind of people have burned me in the past? And what did they use to get past my defenses? That's your personal attack surface. Write it down. Share it with one person you trust deeply. If you don't know how you get played, I promise you, someone else will figure it out faster. Here's another psychological hack. Watch how people treat those they don't need. The clerk, the janitor, the awkward new guy, the person with no obvious skills. Predators perform kindness upward and cruelty downward. Solid people are consistent. In a collapse, your group will have low-status roles: sanitation, grunt labor, night shifts. How someone treats those people now is your preview of how they'll treat the vulnerable later. And while we're ripping off bandages, let's admit this. Sometimes the dangerous person in the group is you. Your temper, your pride, your need to be right, your secret belief that, if they would just listen to me, everything would work. Good leaders assume they're capable of becoming tyrants under stress and build guardrails to prevent it. If you think you're immune, you're already halfway there. So what do you do with all this? Are you supposed to side-eye everyone in your life forever? No. You're supposed to build a layered system that lets you trust intelligently instead of blindly. You move from, I feel like they're good, to, I have data, structure, and habits that protect my group even if I'm wrong. Feelings can be hacked. Systems are harder. Here's your homework, and I'm deadly serious about this. First, make a list of the 5 people most likely to be in your survival circle. For each one, write 3 strengths and 3 potential risk factors: temper, addictions, loyalty issues, health problems, ego. You're not judging. You're mapping reality. Better to be honest now than surprised later. Second, audit your current group structure. Who has keys to what? Who knows where everything is stored? Who has the skills nobody else has? If you disappeared tomorrow, what parts of the system would fail and who could exploit that? Your job this month is to reduce the number of single points of failure by half. Backup skills, backup access, backup leadership. Third, plan one soft drill for the next 30 days. Maybe it's a lean food week, a communication blackout weekend, or a shared workday with strict task assignments and logs. Watch how people react. Take notes. Debrief afterward. You're not trying to catch people in gotchas. You're trying to see how your group functions as an actual survival unit instead of a fantasy league. Most people will hear all of this, nod, maybe share the video, and then do absolutely nothing different. They'll keep building fantasy trust on nostalgia, convenience, and hope. When things go bad, they'll say, I can't believe they did that to us, as if betrayal wasn't written all over the wall months earlier. Don't be most people. They're the background. You're trying to be the remnant. You can keep scrolling, keep trusting blindly, and keep telling yourself that your friends would never, ever turn on you. Or you can get uncomfortable now, do the hard emotional math, and build a group that can survive both the world and itself. One path feels better today. The other path gives you a chance to see more tomorrows. Your move. Subscribe if you're part of the 0.1% who actually act on this, and drop a comment with the biggest red flag you've ignored in the past. Confession time. Class dismissed.